Okay, I want to talk to y'all about Lo que lo pasó in Hawaii, the song that Ricky Martin performed at the Super Bowl last night. It's a Bad Bunny song. Ricky Martin performed it. It's important for a lot of reasons. It was a dream that Benito had, and he woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't go back to sleep, and he had to write, and he wrote the whole song. Basically, it is about colonization and how he doesn't want what happened to Hawaii when it was colonized and taken over to happen to Puerto Rico. And then he talks about how what's happening in Puerto Rico with wealthy colonization happening and preventing people that are from Puerto Rico from even accessing beaches and the mountains and certain pieces of land. He doesn't want that to happen because that's what happened in Hawaii. But it makes me think of the story of how I deeply understood colonialism from my blood ancestry. When Mauna Kea happened, which if you know about Mauna Kea, you know that astronomers, the astronomy community, of which we're very connected to in our household, we're trying to build a new observatory on Mauna Kea, and the indigenous people of Hawaii have been fighting because it is a sacred mountain, and they have been fighting that, and they have prevented it from happening. It's been years that they have been fighting, and according to astronomy, that is the best mountain for this, to be able to see into the stars. And the second best possibility, if they can't get it built on Mauna Kea in Hawaii, is on La Palma, which is in the Canary Islands, which is the island that my family is from. And La Palma is a part of Spain, but around the time that Spain decided to go to the Caribbean and do a little genocide of the indigenous people of the Caribbean, they did the same thing in the Canary Islands to the Guanche people, the indigenous people of the Canary Islands, prior. It was like a practice run, right? So they did a practice run. The conquistadores of Spain did a practice run in the 1400s of the Canary Islands that are off the coast of Morocco, and were inhabited by what DNA understands to be the Amazigh people of North Africa, which were named by colonizers as the Berbers. So somebody knocked on my door. So the Berbers are a word that colonizers used for North African people, and it means barbarian. So when you meet with Amazigh people, you are not, they don't want to be called Berbers. That is a colonizer name. And so many of these people have been, made it to the Canary Islands, over thousands of years, and had lives and had customs and were indigenous to those islands when Spain came in and basically sold all of the men into slavery, and then took the women and enslaved them, but didn't send them to the mainland. So they sent all the men to the mainland Spain to be slaves, and they decided to keep the women on the islands to work for them, and to it was a sex trafficking ring. So that's So I am descended from the conquistadores, and I'm a descendant of the indigenous people of the Canary Islands. So then when that was successful, when they successfully were able to do that, they began, or, within that same few decade, they began doing this over in the Caribbean once the islands had been discovered. They were like, oh, we've already kind of got a playbook for it. So when I learned about Moanaki, and I learned that the observatory would be built potentially on La Palma, I was like, well, this was before I really knew anything about, I knew some about my own history, but not really. I grew up in Nashville. My childhood was in the Dominican Republic in Nashville. I don't have a lot of history of my Spanish roots. My grandparents left Spain because of the Spanish Civil War and during the Franco regime, and came to the Dominican Republic where my father was born. So I studied, because I was like, who's defending the mountain in La Palma where my grandparents were born, at the base of that mountain? Nobody, because the Spaniards did such a beautiful job of destroying the indigeneity of the Canary Islands that there are not populations of original people who are fighting in the same way that indigenous people in Hawaii are fighting. It happened a lot longer ago, but still, in the same way that the Taino people, the Carib people of the Caribbean islands, there are very few that you can just find that are entirely Carib or Taino. They are connected and mixed over generations and generations with Spaniards, with other colonizer, the French, the British, Portuguese, and then the African enslaved humans who were brought over to the islands after they had wiped out the indigenous people. And they didn't have anybody else to enslave, to work for them. And so they started pulling from Africa. So we're all just a mix of everything, right? And so when you are listening to this music that is a mix of all of it, and you are listening to these songs, Lo que pasó in Hawaii, right? That's not the exact title. I can't remember the exact title right now. We don't want what happened in Hawaii to happen in Puerto Rico. We don't want what happened in the Canary Islands to happen again and again and again. It continues to happen. We don't want what happened in all these places to happen in Greenland. But it just is never ending. And so when you witness these songs being sung on a national stage and people maybe don't understand it, but they feel something, what you're feeling is correct. So keep with that feeling and remember that love is the only way we get out of this mess. So love the fuck out of one another every chance you get. Okay? Mwah. Cheers, y'all.